From this Friday, the Chilean people will start a reflection day after the campaign activities in the eve of the historic constitutional plebiscite of October 25th. The World Health Organization warned of a COVID-19 pandemic's critical juncture, particularly in the Northern Hemisphere. Guinean authorities condemn the acts of violence committed across the country. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm Gladys Quesada. And from this Friday, the Chilean people will start a reflection day after the campaign activities in the eve of the historic constitutional plebiscite of October 25th. Numerous commands formed by parties and social organizations conclude with events in different points of the capital and their respective proselytizing campaigns. According to the positions and the general opinion is that the option for a new constitution should triumph by a wide margin, which will begin a process that will conclude in 2022 for the majority of those in favor of approval. It is decisive that the Constituent Convention, in which all the delegates will be elected by popular vote, wins over the Mixed Convention, which contemplates 50% of legislators in office. The International Monetary Fund could renegotiate with the Argentinian government in order to solve the crisis inherited from the government of Mauricio Macri. This was announced by the fund's head of department for the Western Hemisphere, Alejandro Werner, who stressed that the credit should support those plans introduced by the Argentinian authorities to return economic stability to the country. The Argentinian government will be seeking a new financing package which will allow to pay back the $44 billion mega credit, which will help the recovery of the crisis left by the former administration of Mauricio Macri. Former Brazilian President Luis Inácio Lula da Silva requested an impeachment process against current President Jair Bolsonaro for refusing to purchase COVID-19 vaccines from China. Lula justified this request in the face of what he considers an irresponsibility. He stressed that a leader should provide his people with the vaccine against the new coronavirus, although he himself might not believe in its efficacy. He remarked that the current health minister, Eduardo Pazuello, committed himself at the governor's meeting to acquire 46 million doses from the Butantan Institute in China to contain the spread of the virus. Refusing to implement preventive measures for his country is fair cause for his removal, claimed the Brazilian leader. Currently, Brazil has over 5 million cases and 155,000 deaths due to COVID-19. In Costa Rica, the National Rescue Movement called for new forms of protest and said that the road blockades are not performed or promoted by this movement. The National Rescue Movement said that their demonstrations are peaceful. On September 17, the Costa Rican government submitted a proposal to receive a 1.7 billion credit from the International Monetary Fund so as to cover government budget balance full of new taxes and sale of public entities, which was unanimously rejected by all sectors and political parties. Barbados Minister of Tourism Senator Lisa Cummings informed to the British media and the personnel that the country is open for business and all health and safety protocols for COVID-19 will be followed. Senator Cummings, who thanked British Airways for resuming flights to the island, said it was important for visitors to know the country was open for travel, with the highest level of health security being in place. Cummings underlined the government's commitment with COVID-19 protocols, but also added that the relationship between the island and visitors have been built on trust.
564 employees who had been laid off and to retain 100.
In St. Lucia, a former health minister has called authorities to close the country's borders and to isolate the community of Aux-Lyon in Dennery in the battle to control the COVID-19 spread. Dr. Keith Mondesir spoke shortly before Chief Medical Officer Dr. Sharon Balman-George announced 3 new cases of COVID-19. He expressed his concern because St. Lucia has limited resources to deal with a worsening COVID-19 situation, and people do not have homes in which they can observe social distancing. The island borders should be closed. He observed that St. Lucia is currently accommodating tourists from Europe and North America. And now we are going to address a breaking news. Having counted 100% of the ballots cast in Bolivia general elections, Bolivia Movement Towards Socialism officially secured a landslide victory in the presidential elections held on October 28. According to the official report by Bolivia's Supreme Electoral Court, the Movement Towards Socialism secured 54% of the votes, which represents over 3.3 million of the ballots. Citizen Community Alliance gained 29.20% of the votes, representing 1.7 million of the votes, and secured in the second place. We Believe Coalition gained 14% of the votes. The final count confirms Movement Towards Socialism candidate Luis Arce as President-elect of Bolivia, pending the formal proclamation expected by the Bolivia's Supreme Electoral Tribunal at a ceremony in La Paz. On Friday, the Secretary General of the World Health Organization warned of a COVID-19 pandemic's critical juncture, particularly in the Northern Hemisphere, noting that a large number of countries are experiencing an exponential increase in the novel coronavirus cases.
We are at a critical juncture in this pandemic, particularly in the Northern Hemisphere. The next few months are going to be very tough, and some countries are on a dangerous track. Too many countries are seeing an exponential increase in cases, and that's now leading to hospitals and ICU running close or above capacity, and we're still only in October. We urge leaders to take immediate action to prevent further unnecessary deaths, essential health services from collapsing, and schools shutting again. As I said it in February, and I'm repeating it today, this is not a drill.
And Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said on Friday that the real number of coronavirus cases in Spain is more than 3 million.
This week, we reached the official record of 1 million cases, but the zero prevalence studies carried out by public institutions with scientific experts at the head show that the real number of people that have been infected with COVID-19 in our country is more than 3 million.
The Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez also stated that the country will take all measures that are necessary to reduce the number of infections to 25 cases per 100,000 inhabitants.
We must take the necessary measures to curb contagion by causing as little economic damage as possible and as few restrictions as possible on personal freedoms, and we are ready to take any and all measures that are necessary. The decision on the measures to be taken at the time of their adoption will be taken by the autonomous communities and will be made known to the Ministry of Health before they are implemented, which is what we are seeing throughout our country today. Spain has, in aggregate terms, 348 cases per 100,000 inhabitants. We must achieve an accumulated incidence below 25 cases per 100,000 inhabitants. That is, we have a long way to go, but I am convinced, persuaded, that as was the case in the first wave, we will be able to achieve it again if we have the maximum social discipline.
On Friday, Romanian health authorities reported that the daily tally of new COVID-19 cases rose above 5,000 for the first time since the beginning of the pandemic. Health authorities also reported that the number of patients treated in intensive care units also hit a new record. In the last 24 hours, 82 patients died from COVID-19. Authorities have stepped up protective measures in areas where the rate of infection exceeded 3 people per 1,000 inhabitants. Bars, restaurants, theaters, and schools are all closed in these areas. To date, Romania has recorded just over 201,000 infections and more than 6,200 deaths. On Friday, authorities in Portugal passed a bill that enforces the use of face masks in public spaces whenever the 2 meters distance rule cannot be observed. The decision comes after the Portuguese health authorities reported the highest ever new COVID-19 daily number at 3,270 on Thursday.
The epidemiological situation that our country is facing is worsening in a very troubled way. Just yesterday we have surpassed for the first time the 3,000 daily cases. At this moment we must take not a calculated approach of not doing anything and wait and see, but rather the position of being on the forefront of the political fight against the pandemic. That is why we presented today a proposal of mandatory mask use outdoors in public spaces whenever social distancing is not possible and as part of a global approach of containing the outbreak.
On Friday, Japanese Foreign Minister Toshimitsu Motegi and Britain's International Trade Minister Liz Truss signed first major post-Brexit trade deal. London said the pact will boost business between the two countries by $19.5 billion. The deal comes as Prime Minister Boris Johnson pursues his global Britain strategy that seeks potentially more advantageous trade deals than those that were negotiated while he was member of the EU. The UK-Japan Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement covers sectors including food, textiles and technology.
This is the first new free trade deal to be agreed since the UK once again became an independent trading nation. It used to be said that an independent UK would not be able to strike major trade deals or they would take years to conclude. But today we prove the naysayers wrong with this groundbreaking British-shaped deal that was agreed in record time.
The fact that we have been able to conclude this trade agreement at an unprecedented pace of only 4.5 months after tough negotiations shows the strong will of our two countries to promote free trade in the future.
On Friday, NATO's Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said that both Greece and Turkey agreed to cancel military exercises on their respective national holidays.
I can confirm that both Greece and Turkey have decided to cancel military exercises which were planned for next week on their national holidays. I welcome this decision. This is a very welcomed step. And I once again commend Greece and Turkey, two valued NATO allies, for their flexibility and the constructive approach they have shown.
Large demonstrators erupted in Hungary's capital, Budapest, on Friday to protest the government's decision which they claim undermined academic freedom. Demonstrators held up torches and banners reading "Free Country, Free University" and "Art is Free" to reject the government's decision to transfer the control of Hungary's University of Theatre and Film Arts to a private foundation, including the appointment of a new board to run the public institution. A group of students has been barricaded inside the university since September the 1st, claiming that a government-appointed board will deprive the school of its autonomy, while a number of top professors have resigned in protest of the government's move. The institution, which was nurtured by many of Hungary's leading directors and filmmakers, have been caught on a culture war as Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán seeks to put an end to what authorities believe the domination of the arts by liberals.
It's very cruel how they treat this university, and I have never seen anything like this happening in Central Europe, and it is disturbing, to be honest. So that's why I'm here, because I find this disturbing. I can't find any other words for it.
We want quality education. However, this is only possible in autonomous institutions. It is not guaranteed by the ruling power. There is a common set of rules concerning universities in Europe, which has developed over the centuries, and the cornerstone of these rules is institutional autonomy. This is exactly what the government is trying to take away.
On Friday, Guinean authorities condemned the acts of violence committed across the country after the country's presidential elections held on October 18. Meanwhile, elections official final results are expected to be announced this Saturday.
For the past few days, the city of Conakry and many of the country's prefectures have been living desperate scenes of incredible violence, plunging citizens and entire families into total desolation. The Guinean government, faithful to its principle of preserving peace and social tranquility, cannot allow this situation to take root. We deplore the death and bow to their memory, all of them, civilians and agents of the security forces. We want to reassure the people of Guinea that the appropriate Republican measures already implemented are being reinforced to reflect the size of the disturbances, which far stand out from any other disturbances formerly recorded in our country.
This Friday, Libya's two rival factions signed an agreement of permanent ceasefire after 5 days of talks at the United Nations. The international organization hailed the move as a moment that will go down in history. The UN's envoy to Libya, Stephanie Williams, said that today is a good day for the Libyan people. Williams added that both parties agreed to return all military units and armed groups on the front lines to their camps, along with the departure of all mercenaries and foreign fighters from all Libyan territories. Both parties also agreed to establish a mechanism to monitor jointly with the UN mission the implementation of the ceasefire agreement. However, both sides continue to accuse each other of supporting terrorist groups. The ceasefire does not apply to UN-designated terrorist groups.
This agreement will be, God willing, the main reason to stop the bloodshed and the armed conflict in Libya, and it will be, God willing, the reason to restore security and stability on the entire Libyan soil. My message to all Libyans is to be one hand in building Libya, in order for it to be a state of security and stability. We have no objection to cooperating with other countries, whether militarily or politically, for construction. We are happy with what we have accomplished, and I thank the UN mission for its effort, and with God's permission, we will implement these decisions that we have agreed upon.
And we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also, if you feel so inclined, join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.